There had been whispers all morning that someone unexpected was about to testify, not an accuser, not a whistleblower, but a father, a partner, a voice long silenced. When Al-Bashir walked into the courtroom, he carried not swagger, but weight. Dressed in a black suit, no jewelry, no smile, his eyes downcast and steps deliberate, he clutched a letter, folded twice, its edges worn from years of being held. Diddy didn't flinch when he saw him, but everyone else in the room did. They all knew who Kim Porter was, and now her ex was about to speak. Al didn't ask for water or shift in his seat, he simply adjusted the mic and said quietly, "I've waited a long time for this. I'm not here to throw dirt, I'm here to speak on behalf of someone who can't." From his jacket, he pulled the letter and placed it on the table. "This is from Kim, written in 2006, he said. "She gave it to me before she moved back in with Sean. Told me to hold it. In case anything ever happened." And now, he was ready to read it. Her words filled the courtroom. What began as a relationship built on charm and business had turned to control and isolation. She wrote of friends drifting away, of trips that felt strategic, not spontaneous. One line cut through the room: "He says I'm nothing without him, that I owe him everything. But what about my name, my voice, my soul?" Al's voice cracked reading it, prompting Diddy's lead counsel to object, irrelevant and speculative, but the judge allowed it. This wasn't hearsay, it was testament. Al delivered it like a eulogy. Kim had tried to leave 3 times. In 2004, she packed her bags, called her mother, but he sent people, said it was a misunderstanding. In 2006, she booked a hotel under another name. He showed up within hours. The gallery stirred, people connecting dots. Al paused before recalling the last attempt, in 2018. Silence. "She told me she didn't feel safe." The room changed. The judge asked for clarification. "Did she say she was being physically harmed?" Al paused. "No, but she said she felt watched, controlled, that people around her, people she trusted, were suddenly gone or scared." Then he leaned in. "She said, if anything ever happened to her, people should start asking questions." That's when the courtroom truly shifted. Because Kim Porter didn't die in a car accident, she died suddenly, unexpectedly, in her own home. And until now, no one had spoken under oath about her fears. The lights flickered slightly as a technician adjusted the mic, but the real charge in the room came when Al, already sworn in, said clearly, "Kim Porter should still be alive." Then came the pivot. "And if you're asking me why she's not, I can only tell you what I saw, what I was told, and what I feared for years." He wasn't just a witness, he was a grieving man who had once loved Kim, shared a child with her, and spent the last years of her life trying to understand the fear she lived with. "There were late-night calls," he said, panicked, from untraceable numbers, her voice trembling. And with each word, the silence in the courtroom deepened. And when Al-Bashir was asked if Kim's fear was about Puff, he said she always gave the same answer: "Don't make me answer that." Al didn't speak in riddles, he laid out a clear timeline, marking a change in Kim's demeanor after a 2016 weekend at Diddy's home, around the time he was battling internal turmoil and rumors threatening to out parts of his private life. Kim returned from that trip quiet, withdrawn, like someone who had seen something she couldn't unsee. Al, always protective, tried to follow up, but she kept him out of it. "I think she knew I'd act reckless if I ever found out the truth," he said. When the prosecution asked gently, "What truth?" Al dropped a bomb. Kim had told him about a storage unit in LA, a place where she kept things, photos, contracts, recordings. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should find it. But when he tried, it was too late. "It was cleared out 3 days after she died," he said, and the courtroom froze. He had used a name from a notarized document Kim left. But by the time he arrived, the unit was stripped, surveillance wiped, keycard access erased. He received a warning call from a mutual friend, still unnamed, telling him not to dig further. "I was already being watched," the friend warned. "Let sleeping dogs lie." Al didn't. He couldn't. Not with Quincy, his son with Kim, asking questions. It was the first time Quincy Brown's name was mentioned, and the gallery reacted. Visibly calm but cutting, Al walked the jury through the final days of Kim's life, texts that abruptly stopped, voicemails unanswered, and a final call 2 days before her death that felt like a goodbye. Then came the detail that shook the room. Kim said she had to meet Puff's team to finalize paperwork related to the estate, rights, property, legacy. The meeting, as far as anyone knew, never happened. But 48 hours later, she was dead. Al didn't accuse anyone of murder, he made that clear. But what he did say landed heavily: people are too scared to call things by their name. "I'm not." I think Kim was silenced, maybe not by a hand, but by a system that didn't want her speaking. He told the court how Kim had tried to start a production label, had spoken of writing a book, but Puff discouraged it, told her the timing wasn't right, said it would dredge up things better left alone. Looking directly at the prosecution, Al declared those things were real. She lived them. And she was ready to tell her story. Now she never will. The room stayed still as Al took a breath. After Kim died, I wasn't the only one asking questions, he said. Her friends grew fearful. Her family grew quiet. And every time someone spoke up, they got shut down, fast. Then Al turned toward the gallery, addressing no one and everyone. You know how this industry works. You don't have to be told to stay silent. You just feel it. Then Albie sure looked back at the jury and said, but Quincy, he never stopped asking, and that's when he revealed something most didn't know. He had tried, quietly, to get Kim Porter's autopsy reopened. Filing under a different name and going through back channels, he ran into roadblock after roadblock. Someone, he said, kept blocking the paperwork. When the prosecution asked if he was alleging interference in a legal inquiry, Al didn't flinch. I'm saying Puff had reach, and he used it. He described how Kim's initial toxicology report showed nothing, no drugs, no alcohol, just pneumonia, but it didn't add up. Kim had been healthy, fit, with a clean bill of health just 10 days earlier. Then Al added something chilling. There was a second draft of that report, one he saw only once, shown to him by a friend in the coroner's office. That version listed trace amounts of a sedative, something not usually tested for unless you're specifically looking. The courtroom leaned in. That friend also told him the lab that handled Kim's samples later reported her blood work was lost, labeled contaminated, and discarded. Gone. Just like that, Al said, shaking his head. This ain't conspiracy. This is pattern. He pointed to the jury, and I've seen that pattern before. When people get close to speaking out, something always happens. And I think Kim got close. When the prosecution asked, Mr. Brown, why come forward now? Al looked at the judge, then the jury, and finally the empty seat where Kim would have sat. Because silence didn't protect her. And it won't protect the rest of us either. The prosecutor circled back to a name that kept surfacing, Quincy, Kim's son. The boy Diddy adopted. The boy Al had fathered. And it was Al's relationship with Quincy that cracked open the next layer. He told the court they kept Quincy in the dark when Kim died. That boy had questions. Still does. He spoke of private messages, Quincy reaching out, saying things didn't line up, that the timeline felt off, that the grief felt manufactured, because there was nowhere for it to go. Then Al handed the judge a printout of an Instagram draft, one Quincy wrote but never posted. It began, Dear Mom, I don't believe you just died. The post described a 2 a.m. phone call from a number Quincy didn't recognize. A cold voice simply said, she's gone. No emotion, no explanation, no family presence. Quincy later asked Al, do you think they were trying to scare me? The gallery stirred. It wasn't just grief anymore, it was fear. When asked if Quincy ever suspected foul play, Al answered without hesitation, yes, he did. And I do too. Then Al paused and asked the judge for a moment. His hands were shaking. What he said next froze the room. There was a letter. One Kim wrote. It wasn't found in her purse or her bedroom, Al explained. It was emailed to her attorney. Dated just 10 days before her death. He hadn't seen it until months later. But once I did, I couldn't sleep. He looked at the prosecutor and nodded. It's time. The judge granted a short recess to authenticate the document, which was then ruled admissible in redacted form. It began, if anything happens to me, make sure Quincy knows I loved him, and that I was trying to leave. She wrote about being followed, about a shadow presence in her home. She didn't name Diddy directly, but she said, I know who I'm dealing with. And they don't let go easy. The gallery went silent, the air sucked from the room. Al sat down, eyes rimmed red. I failed her, he whispered. I should have done more. The prosecution asked one final question. What do you believe happened to Kim Porter? Al looked up, his voice steady. I believe she was silenced. I believe it was strategic. And I believe the people behind it are in this room watching. Diddy didn't look at him. He stared straight ahead, stone still, waiting for it all to pass, but this time, it wasn't going to. Al took a sip of water, his eyes still on the floor. For a second, it looked like he might stop there. But then he looked up, calm, steady, and said, there was another time. A few years before Kim passed. She called me from a blocked number. The courtroom tensed. She was whispering. Said she couldn't talk long. But she told me she was scared. Said she was thinking of leaving and that she didn't know who to trust anymore. When Al asked if it was about Puff, she didn't answer, but she didn't have to. The prosecution pressed him to clarify what she meant by leaving. Al never said the word escape, but it hung in the air. They asked if he had proof, recordings, timestamps, messages. She didn't want it traced, he said. And suddenly, it was clear, this wasn't just testimony. It was a reckoning. Then Albie sure added something else, a letter Kim had once mailed him during a custody discussion that, at the time, seemed simple but now read as something far heavier. If anything ever happens to me, she had written, don't let Quincy think it was his fault. Al paused, letting that sentence land, and the courtroom stirred with a low murmur, the kind of sound people make when the shape of everything they thought they knew starts to shift. The defense objected to the letter being mentioned without presenting it, and the judge asked Al if he still had it. I gave it to Quincy when he turned 18, he said quietly. I didn't think I'd ever have to explain it like this. When asked if Quincy had read it, Al said the boy never wanted to talk about it, he folded it up and tucked it away. The prosecution asked if he believed Kim had been preparing for something, trying to leave behind some kind of message. Al didn't speak, he just nodded, quiet but sure. Then came the subject of the hospital. Kim hated hospitals, Al said, leaning forward. Would only go if it was serious. That's why he was shocked when she checked in for flu symptoms, and even more stunned when she was gone 2 days later. The prosecution referenced the official coroner's report, lobar pneumonia. But Al pushed back, gently but firmly. She told me she was getting better. Said the worst had passed. She was planning a trip. Then, suddenly, she was gone. He didn't accuse anyone outright, he didn't have to. When asked directly if he was suggesting foul play, Al answered. Like a man who'd been sitting with this pain for too long, I'm saying she was trying to build a way out. And every time she tried, something pulled her back in. That's not pneumonia. That's pressure. The judge reminded the court these were personal recollections, not confirmed evidence, but the room had already shifted. The facts might be soft, but the weight of Al's words was hard to ignore. The prosecution circled back. Mr. Brown, when did you last speak to Kim directly? A week before she passed, he answered without hesitation. She said she was tired, not sick, just tired. Said she'd been waking up feeling watched, like something wasn't right in the house. Asked if she mentioned anyone specifically, Al hesitated. She didn't name him, he said. But she said she felt like she was being punished for something. Like she made the wrong call and now had to live with it. The courtroom felt colder. Then the questions turned to Quincy. What was his reaction when Kim passed? Al swallowed hard. He shut down. Quincy always kept things close, but this broke something in him. He told me it wasn't supposed to happen like this. I asked him what he meant, but he wouldn't say. Did Al think Quincy knew something? I think he felt something, Al said. Kids always know, even if they don't understand. And the way things moved after she died, how fast they wrapped everything up, it didn't sit right with him. Then came the funeral. You've said publicly you weren't invited, is that true? The prosecution asked. Al nodded. That was my son's mother. And I had to find out about the funeral through a third party. I wasn't even allowed near the front. Did he believe that was intentional? I know it was, he said. People wanted me quiet. Wanted the cameras focused on one version of her story. What version was that? That she was happy. That it was peaceful. That there was nothing more to see. He looked away. But I knew better. Then came the matter of motive. Mr. Brown, in your opinion, why would anyone want to silence Kim? Al exhaled, steady but weary. Because she knew too much. Because she had receipts. And because she wasn't afraid to start talking once it all got too heavy. He looked toward the gallery, speaking to no one in particular. She once told me, it's not about what they did to me. It's what they think they can keep doing. The quote landed like a quiet bomb. No objections. Then the prosecution asked, if Kim Porter were alive today, what do you think she would say to this court? Al's voice softened. She'd tell you she tried. That she gave the best years of her life to people who thought they owned her. And when she finally tried to walk away, they made sure the door shut behind her. The courtroom didn't breathe. I'm just here, he said, so the door doesn't stay shut. The judge called a recess, 10 minutes, just enough time for the courtroom to exhale. No one spoke. No side conversations. Even the guards stood still, unsure what they were guarding anymore. When court resumed, the room felt heavier, like something sacred had cracked open. The prosecution shifted tone, no more questions, just playback, facts, dates, interviews, clips. Al sat silently as a 2019 clip played of him saying he'd been in a coma during Kim's funeral. The defense objected, irrelevant. The judge overruled, state of mind is in question. When the clip ended, the prosecutor asked, were you ever contacted about an investigation into her death? No, did you request one? I did. Publicly. But nothing came of it. No autopsy details. No follow-up. Just a statement and a sealed report. Who wanted it closed? Oh, I think we all know who I mean. He didn't say the name, but the implication wrapped around the courtroom like a noose. Finally, the defense stood, tone clipped. Mr. Brown, are you suggesting that a global music icon orchestrated the death of his former partner? Al didn't flinch. I'm saying she didn't die the way they said she did. Do you have proof? No. But I have questions. And I know for a fact, so did she. The judge reminded the court that allegations without evidence remain just that, allegations. But the seed had been planted, and the jury looked shaken. Then came one more piece, a journal entry. The prosecution handed it to Al, who confirmed the handwriting as Kim's. Dated March 11, 2018. He read aloud, "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be free, not from the house, from the silence." The courtroom fell quiet again, this time out of respect. Al's hands trembled as he handed the page back. "I never wanted this in court," he said. But she deserved to be heard. And in that moment, somehow, she was. As court adjourned for the day, no one moved. Diddy didn't look up. His lawyers packed slowly, like the floor might collapse under them. Outside, reporters typed furiously. Not about what was proven, but about what was said, what was felt, and what couldn't be unsaid. Al stepped down from the witness box, glancing once, not at Diddy, but at the empty seat where Kim would have been if things had gone differently. Then he left, quietly. Outside, cameras swarmed, but Al didn't stop for interviews. He walked with his head down, flanked by two family members. Someone shouted, "Do you think justice will ever come?" He didn't answer. But the pause before he stepped into the car said everything. It was a long one.